Hey everybody, it's Mandy Ray of Ecstatic Astrology here to give you the weekly update for Monday, November 1st through Monday, November 8th. I always do Monday to Monday because I record these on Monday. And today, Monday, November 1st, we started out with the moon in Virgo. And then it was void of course for most of the day, meaning it wasn't making any aspects. And that's typically looked at as a time when it's a little more difficult to get things done. So the moon has moved into Libra this evening, and Libra is about relationships and how we balance our lives, justice, peace, fairness. So balance is the name of the game with the moon in Libra. We wake up in the morning with the moon trining Saturn in Aquarius. So this is a really brief, anytime the moon makes an aspect, it's brief, but it's good to get things done with the moon trine Saturn. So it's a productive type of an aspect that we wake up with Tuesday, November 2nd. Now, I will say this, Mercury is also coming into a square with Pluto. The last time it did, it's done that 3 times. It went retrograde. So let me pull up my notes here to get the last time that it did that. Looks like it first squared Pluto September 22nd, and then it turned retrograde. It repeated that square on October 1st, and now this is the last pass. So Mercury square Pluto has been a lot about taking our power back in relationships. Mercury is how we think, though, and how we communicate. So we've been communicating that need to feel empowered, for things to feel balanced and fair, to see what has authority over us. Pluto in Capricorn is really transforming authority, boundaries, and rules. So Mercury square Pluto is tense, and it's still pretty active. It's active Monday and Tuesday. And so with that square perfecting in the early hours of the morning, that moon trine Saturn can be helpful in having difficult conversations or in drawing the boundaries. So I think that's really nice to lean on Tuesday morning. Now, also Tuesday, just after that, trine to Saturn, we have it opposing Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. So it can be a little sensitive. It generally feels a lot like picking at a scab sometimes. I know it's gross, but that's exactly what it feels like, especially if you're trying to, let it get healed. So that's what that aspect feels like to me, of course, on a very abstract, emotional, metaphysical level. Sometimes actually your body, Chiron can be health in your body as well. So again, a very brief transit, but it can be a little bit sensitive, probably relating to what we've been dealing with the moon trine Saturn and Mercury square Pluto. So the rest of the day, Tuesday, is fairly quiet. The moon doesn't make any big aspects that are, worth looking at. Wednesday, November 3rd, though, the moon in Libra is applying to a conjunction with Mercury. So this is emotional processing, especially maybe of what went on the day prior. So it can bring us to a little bit of a conclusion and maybe some clarity. It is out of its shadow on Wednesday, November 3rd. And so that's great. Mercury in its shadow means it's already traced those steps, which is why it's also squaring Pluto that last 3rd time. And then boom, it's charging into new territory. So that Mercury moon conjunction in Libra is also loosely sextiling Venus and Sagittarius, which really helps us zero in on our truth, our philosophies about life, and how do we move forward after all of this? And it's a very beneficial aspect. So I'm really excited about that. I look forward to some epiphanies, especially regarding, okay, what feels true for me? What feels okay? What feels fair? How do we move forward in the future? We can't forget, though, that the moon briefly squares Pluto in the middle of all of this. So it's kind of carrying forward that Mercury square Pluto feeling of, I'm not going to take that anymore. That does not have authority over me. We're going to do things differently in order to balance out our lives. It's like a punctuation, if you will, like period. I'm not going to take it. The sun is building to its opposition with Uranus starting Wednesday. I always find the build up to a transit like this to be very full of the energy. I don't always find that on the backside of the aspect that there's a whole lot. The building up phase to me seems to be really full of the archetype of whatever the transit is about. So the sun opposing Uranus, Uranus is the planet of change and upheaval and liberation and innovation. And it's like lightning. And the sun is our purpose. It's our, life force. And so to have those two things, the sun in Scorpio, which is about how I share myself, how I merge with others, contracts. And I think of marriage when I think of Scorpio, inheritance, taxes, business partnerships. That's all Scorpio territory, even sex, okay? Because we are merging in Scorpio. And then the opposite sign, Taurus, is where Uranus is, the innovation, the liberation. And Taurus is about our comfort zone, our assets, what we value, what is mine. So that axis is about what is mine and how I share it with others. So you can find maybe the need for freedom coming up around this time, the freedom from a contract, perhaps, that you've had with someone. Or maybe something that used to be comfortable for you is not anymore. And so you have to change the contracts that you've made or change the agreements or how you share your resources with someone. And that is, of course, what the new moon is about. So Wednesday, we really start into this new moon territory, especially as the moon moves into Scorpio around 7 p.m. Wednesday evening, and we're in new moon territory by that time. So the night really shapes up to be quite passionate. The moon immediately hits Mars that evening as we're going to bed. So, I mean, that is really nice for passion and motivation. And I find Mars to be an inspirational planet because it puts fire under you, to get started on something. And in Scorpio, that's like a volcano under the water, right? So we're talking about some steamy evening vibes on Wednesday. A Thursday on the 4th, that's the new moon day. And that is, really, it's supposed to be a quiet time. This new moon is not exactly quiet. I would not call it quiet. The very first thing that happens on Thursday, November 4th in the morning is it makes a 10th square. The moon makes a 10th square to Saturn, the taskmaster. That's early, first thing in the morning. So it's a bit of a frustrating start to that Thursday because Saturn can represent obstacles or responsibilities or the work that needs to be done. And, I think of it like Scorpio is what I want to do. It's my deep desires. It's passion. It's how I own something or how I possess something or how something possesses me sometimes. It's power and disempowerment as a Scorpio topic. So it's like, I want to be doing this, but Saturn in Aquarius is like, what about the future that you want? What about, you're trying to, I like to say with Saturn, raise your stock, so to speak. And that can be, you can apply that to many different areas of life. But the urge to do something that you're passionate about or maybe obsessed with in Scorpio. And again, moon transits are brief, but still, this is leading up to that new moon. So I think it's a big deal. It informs the new moon almost, this square to Saturn that we start the day off with. So you reach the wall and then you go, hey, I'm either going to change my future foundations, how I'm building my future, or I'm going to have to, maybe put aside my desire for a minute, and how those things play off of each other. So it can be a little bit tense, a little bit frustrating. Now, going into the new moon, which is exact at 4:15 p.m. Central Time, is characterized by its exact opposition to Uranus. So there are degrees that we look at, and the new moon's at 12 degrees of Scorpio. Uranus is at 12 degrees of Taurus. They are exactly opposite each other. And it's only a few minutes off. There's 60 minutes in each degree. And I believe this is 7 minutes away from exact. So that is what's coloring most of this new moon phase, is that initial new moon seed planting moment, the moment that the moon is dark and we're receiving these new phase messages. Uranus is exactly opposite, saying we got to change something. We have to metamorphosize. It's a metamorphosis new moon. We are changing something. Again, Uranus and Taurus has been perhaps liberating us from a box that we're trapped in, because Taurus is fixed energy, so is Scorpio, but Taurus is fixed earth energy. And so this is quite firm in the way that, where we find our comfort zones are generally where they are for a long time. It takes a lot sometimes for a human to break out of old patterns, old value systems, things that aren't working anymore. So especially in Taurus, this is our values in terms of what maybe is an asset, or even what, color we like. It can be as simple as that, the music we like, but Taurus really is our senses and sensuality, and that is really shifting for everyone. What we used to like is really not cutting it anymore. And so the new moon in Scorpio is filled with that. It's like, what does that do to my deepest desires? Who am I really? What do I want? And it's really inviting that out of us. It's boiling it out of us, because Mars is also in Scorpio. Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. And, the modern ruler is Pluto. I think it doesn't really matter, because they both have the same connotation. Mars in Scorpio wants to transform stuff. It wants to transmute and sometimes get rid of. In fact, Scorpio, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, with it being autumn when the leaves fall, we are getting rid of all of that. We're starting anew. We're going to transmute all of those dead leaves that fall to the ground into soil to grow it up in Taurus. And even if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you just flip it. It's the same for this new moon for either place that you're at. We are really transforming and transmuting some things, composting. We're not doing that anymore. That's dead. And I hate to be so like in your face with, dead, but it is something in our lives has run its course. And I'll tell you what, it's not just the new moon opposite Uranus that is telling us this. Also, Saturn has been square Uranus all year. It will square it again in December. And this is like, we're done with the tyranny of the old guard, whether that's in Taurus or in Aquarius, I can't say. Well, it's the play between them. Saturn is the taskmaster, but in Aquarius, it really wants to innovate how we do things, how we build. And Uranus and Taurus is like, oh, well, then we might need to change food production, right? Taurus, earth sign. So we need to value things in a different way, and that changes the way we have to do things. So that's been going on all year. And to top it off, next year, we have the eclipses moving into Scorpio and Taurus. South Node moving into Scorpio. What we're getting rid of, karmic baggage, getting rid of it, especially in terms of desires, shadow work, maybe the things we don't want to look at, possessiveness, contracts, the way we share ourselves, and the North Node's moving into Taurus. So we're finding new ways, new boxes to get in, if you want to put it that way, new places to put down our roots. And maybe new ways of finding the worth in ourselves. Taurus is about self-worth. So this new moon is really more than just this next month. It's a preview. This whole phase is a preview of maybe the biggest energies coming in next year and in December. So we're really kicking off a lot of movement starting with this new moon. November starts to really pick up the pace because we're moving into eclipse season as well. So this new moon is full of energy with connotations of passion, obsession, power. Are we in our empowerment? Are people holding things over our head, putting their thumb on us? Is something, it doesn't have to be people, it could be something, some desire that used to be hold a lot of power over you, maybe needs to be done away with, or maybe has been done away with. I do think the really nice thing about this new moon, is that with Mercury freshly off its square to Pluto, it's applying to a really nice opportunistic sextile with Venus and Sagittarius. So we can really tune into what feels right, what feels true, what is true for us. And it's like, check in with that heart center. Think about it with Mercury, write about it, keep your eyes wide open, keep your mind wide open, because you might need to be ready to pivot during this moon phase with Uranus opposite. Now, Uranus could throw you a curveball, especially when Mars comes in to oppose it next week. And I do want to prepare everyone to, sometimes I say, you know, upheaval can be negative, but it can also be great. It can be opportunistic, you know. And oftentimes those two are melded together, and something that seems negative oftentimes ends up being an opportunity, and vice versa. So it's like upheaval, you know, it can also be winning the lottery, but it could also be an earthquake, right? So these are the types of curveballs I'm talking about. And I don't want to, this is not a fearful thing. Being in fear does not help. This is a be curious, be wondrous. I wonder what this new moon and then the subsequent full moon lunar eclipse might bring to me. You know, open the door to what you want to change, what you want to get rid of, the habits, the people, the contracts, the investments, the partnerships. You may be getting rid of some of those things, or you may be just deciding to approach them differently. Okay. I'll go through the rising signs at the end of this for the new moon. So Friday, November 5th, coming off of this new moon, is still a day of change. Venus moves into Capricorn just after we wake up. It's like, or maybe as we wake up. And that's really good for success in relationships, success with money, building to that success with Venus there. And I think it's going to bring us some structure and hopefully balance some things out. Venus and Sagittarius is like a pack of wild horses that wants to go off and do the thing and be adventurous. And Capricorn, it's a little more discerning, a little more exacting. And it's like, oh, well, if I want to, you know, have a big savings account, I need to save the money. That's sort of how Venus and Capricorn acts. But it also brings longevity to investments and to relationships. Now, the moon in Scorpio will be squaring Jupiter in Aquarius first thing in the morning. Get a little strange in these fixed signs. I mean, Aquarius, like I said, it does rule aliens. That's my favorite thing. Look, I have Aquarius placements, so please do not take that the wrong way if you do, if you are an Aquarius. I think when I say that, I mean it is nonconformist, it's different. And maybe things that we can't even imagine. That is Aquarian energy. Jupiter is there, which is expansion. And so Jupiter is like really exploring new territory, innovative things. And the moon comes in Scorpio to square that. And Scorpio can get quite deep, and it's looking at the shadow, right? And the things that are transforming in our lives. And that square, which is tense, even though Jupiter is a benefic, can just get a little weird. It's like, yeah, I want to do this really different thing. And the moon in Scorpio kind of doubles down, right? So it can be overindulgent, maybe obsessive. Just, you know, be aware of that first thing in the morning. It's brief. It's a moon transit. It's brief. Mercury is at the last degree of Libra today, and it will move into Scorpio at dinner time. So that's two planets changing signs right away on Friday, right after the new moon. But for a couple of hours in the evening, Mars is still in Scorpio, the sun's in Scorpio, the moon's in Scorpio, and Mercury will be in Scorpio after dinner. So that's four, I like to call them cosmic characters because they're not all planets, two luminaries, two planets, are in the depths of Scorpio, the desires, the passion, the merging, the transmutation for just a couple hours. And then the moon moves into Sagittarius around 8 p.m. So that's three things changing signs on Friday. So that's a big deal. We do get a dose of expansiveness and optimism to end the night with when the moon moves into Sagittarius. And I think that's really nice, you know, feeling into our philosophies, you know, and that'll be a nice way to end Friday evening. Saturday the 6th, the moon in Sagittarius all day, very idealistic, wants to feel into the truth and what's real and adventure. And that's, you know, territory that the Venus has just finished transiting. So it might feel really nice and fresh to have the moon in Sag. And of course, as we awake, the moon's in an opportunistic sextile with Saturn. So things are, you know, coming together. I think we're starting to realize how we want to organize reality. You know, if our truth is this, then this is the way we need to build life. And these are the responsibilities that we need to take care of. So, and dreams could be pretty active overnight as the moon will make a square to Neptune, especially around the witching hour, 3 a.m. Central time, of course. Check your local time. So Sunday the 7th. So anyway, let me just say this about Saturday. Saturday is most people's weekends, okay? And I think that this will be pretty nice with the moon and Sag. I don't think it's going to be anything, it doesn't seem too active, but it does seem like, okay, you know, it's a good Saturday. The moon is sextile Jupiter when we wake up on Sunday. So it's like turning our minds to the future early in the morning, you know, and then it goes void of course, meaning it makes no other connections for the rest of Sunday. So I think Sunday is going to be also fairly quiet, whereas Saturday seems jovial and like we want to have fun. Sunday is like maybe more rest and relaxation, especially coming off of that square to Neptune and then the sextile to Jupiter, and feeling into our truths and our philosophies and what we want to do for the future, maybe thinking about, you know, the week ahead. The moon moves into Capricorn around 7, and it'll meet Venus as we go to bed. Now, I want you guys to take Sunday and rest and relax. And there's a reason, and that's because the week ahead from the 8th on could be pretty intense. So I think taking Sunday to nurture yourself. And I know moon and Sag doesn't necessarily nurture very well, but yeah, sure, let loose, have fun. Because when the moon moves into Capricorn, after it passes Venus, it kind of just gets a little heavy. And so I think it'll be good to rest, relax, and have a nice Sunday of nurturing yourself. Monday, November 8th, I'm just going to give you guys a preview of the 8th on, because it's a very Monday when we wake up. And in fact, the whole week is like a week of Monday. So Mars is in Scorpio, and it's approaching its square with Saturn, and it's already very active on Monday. That square with Saturn isn't exact until Wednesday, the 10th. But Monday, it's already getting there. And again, like I said, I think the buildup can be a little more full of the energy of a transit than the back end of something. I think the buildup can be quite palpable. So Mars square Saturn is going to bring up similar things. This is Monday, November 8th. Maybe feelings or situations from October 29th and 30th when the sun squared Saturn. So you get a kind of like an obstacle or a frustration or a responsibility or a task that has to be done, something maybe you've been invited to achieve, right? And that comes into play. We're coming in Monday, November 8th. It's funny, I have a deadline November 9th myself, and it's like I can already see that that's reflecting that deadline to me. Mars is our will. And then Scorpio really wants to get what it wants. It wants power. It wants, and when I say power, I don't mean like, sometimes that could be negatively, but like empowerment. It wants to feel like it's got what it wants. That's what Mars and Scorpio wants. And it's square to Saturn is like, you can't have it yet. There's more to do. Or remember the promise you made, or the deadline, or something like that. And so that's what Monday starts out with. You know, the depth and intensity of Scorpio and its feeling. Scorpio is a water sign. It's emotion. Doesn't really jive with the fixed air sign of Aquarius, which just floats above it all, right? So you're talking about the depths versus the heights, and how those two things work with each other or don't work with each other. But it's calling us, Aquarius is calling us to a higher minded approach. And you know, Mars and Scorpio is not so higher minded. It just really is following its intuition, its gut. Those two things can just be in a tense way of dealing with each other. I can't even find the words to say it. It's already coming out in the way I talk. Also, with Mercury being in Scorpio, it's like we're also thinking in this way with all of these transits. Anything that's in the same sign is going to come into play. I will say this, at the exact Saturn square Mars moment, Mercury is with Mars and the moon is with Saturn as their square. So it's a double whammy, okay? And I wanted to give you guys, I don't normally go this far ahead because I do a weekly thing, but Wednesday the 10th is like, and in fact, Monday the 8th, Tuesday the 9th, Wednesday the 10th can be quite tense. So I want you to try to plan for that. Plan to have a break to soothe your nervous system. Plan to not be around people who might trigger you. Give yourself some space if you can. Plan that time. If you got a deadline coming up, make sure you're not over committing yourself because you have that deadline, right? Make sure you're putting time and effort into the responsibilities, because on the back end, when Mars moves past that square, it will feel good that you did that, because it will feel like freedom when it opposes Uranus. Now, the moon on Monday, November 8th, will be in Capricorn, which can also be quite cold. The moon's home is opposite in Cancer. And so it just feels like responsibility all day. So yeah, I wanted to go ahead and give you that preview. Tuesday, the moon meets Pluto as well. And it's just like pretty deep and very Monday start to the week on the 8th. All right, so let me go through the rising signs for you guys for this new moon. Now, we're finding the rising sign is where we're going to be transforming, going through a metamorphosis. Scorpio rising, this is in your first house of identity, self, autonomy, and instincts. So you're really starting a new cycle, and it could be based on some new things that are happening for you in relationships. Your values are changing there. Maybe you decide, you know, this relationship really is worth it, so I'm going to change the way I communicate a little bit, right? Or maybe you decide the relationship's not worth it, so you're just going to go off and be a completely different human. Either way, this is about you, your identity versus your relationships and how you cooperate with people. I would expect this new moon to be about a new phase for your identity, maybe even how you look. I mean, it could be a new hair color. The first house is really about how you appear to the world and your autonomy, how you feel independent, if you're getting what you want, if you're feeling seen. And Uranus in Taurus is really throwing you some curveballs in the relationship area. So I would expect the full moon in your relationship area to culminate whatever phase that you're starting. If you're trying to say, okay, I'm going to maybe not cuss him out every time he says something to me, you know, like that's kind of what I'm thinking about, especially with Mars and Scorpio, then you're going to have to really put in some work, right? And that full moon will pay you back. Okay. And it could be vice versa too. Don't forget. It could also be how I'm, you know, not going to change for the sake of others. Okay. And again, the full moon lunar eclipse will show that coming. Okay. Libra rising. This new moon is in the area of assets, money, values, self-worth, comfort. And that is exactly what you're starting a new phase in. You know, maybe you're like, I really need to redo this dresser so I can sell it. Okay. I know that sounds really mundane and kind of like, okay. But I mean that, like, this is like, how am I going to make myself feel valuable? I want to take power over my self-worth. And what does that mean? What makes me feel like I'm comfortable, like I'm valued? And then the opposite area where Uranus is for you is in the 8th house of how I share my resources. So there could be something different coming in there, business partnerships, inheritance, taxes, investments, something different is going on in that area for you. And it's going to change how you relate to your own assets, your own self-worth. Okay. Virgo rising. This is about communication, learning, siblings, community, decision making. That's what I say for the 3rd house. I think the 3rd house really has to do with decision making. And I think that in terms of where Uranus is, which is your ninth house of truth and philosophy, you could be valuing new truths or having some new information come in about how you engage with reality, what you believe, maybe learning some new things. So this new moon is about how you communicate, starting a new phase there, maybe empowering yourself through communication, through community development, through your siblings as well, or making decisions that support your life, support where you want to be in the future as well. So Virgo rising, this is about the way you think. You're really setting a new intention to change the way you think and then what you believe. Okay, Leo rising. This is home, family, and emotional security for you. So we're talking, could be wanting to change your home. Don't forget the eclipses come in there soon. And also career. Uranus is in your area of career and public reputation. Something may be changing there, which requires you to go back into yourself and go, okay, what makes me feel emotionally secure? What feels good in my home or doesn't feel good in my home, in my family? So we're metamorphosizing. I keep saying that word, it's probably wrong. Our home, our family, the way we do all of that. And then that's also going to reflect at the full moon in your career area. Cancer rising, creativity, courage, purpose, romance. This is a new phase for you and how you're creative and what you need to do away with in terms of like maybe what you think about how you're creative. Uranus is in Taurus in your 11th house, which is networking and the groups of people that you surround yourself with, and also future goals. And so if you have a new goal for the future, that's going to send you back into this creative space. Okay, how do I be creative? How do I attend to my heart? What do I find enjoyable? Right? What is my purpose in life? What makes me feel alive? That's what this is. And that's changing for you. And that's okay. You know, new goals may have come up and you're like, well, I don't even know if I like this. Do I like these goals? Right? This is what this axis is about for you, Cancer rising. Okay, Gemini rising. This is work, service, habits, health, and healing. It's in your 6th house. So you could be changing work or deciding that you don't want to do something for work every day, or a habit or health. Uranus is in your 12th house, which is really abstract. It's about maybe some spiritual downloads that you're getting or intuitive messages. Well, this new moon is like, all right, show me. Let's change our habits. Let's change the way we do our daily life, our rituals. And so you may be doing away with something either in the way you work or health-wise or ritual-wise with this new moon phase. And then that will culminate in a greater sense of spiritual freedom at the full moon lunar eclipse, I think. Okay, Taurus rising. This is about relationships for you. The new moon is in your area of relationships. And do you feel empowered in relationships, in the agreements you have, in the way you cooperate, in the way you collaborate? And Uranus is in your 1st house. So maybe changing the way you see yourself, right? How do you value your identity? And is that coming through in your relationships? Are you feeling empowered in that way? That's what this new moon is about for you. It's relationships versus identity. Okay, Aries rising, shared resources, sexuality, empowerment, and contracts. This is in your 8th house, Aries rising. It would not surprise me if you were making new contracts or breaking old ones, right? Or if you were deciding that you are really interested in somebody or something, wanting to merge resources with someone. Uranus is in your 2nd house, which is your assets. So you could be seeing a change in your assets, your own self-worth, that are now forcing you to look back at how you share that with others. And is it worth it, right? So this is really about empowerment, how you share yourself this new moon. And I expect it to be pretty intense for Aries risings because the 8th house is such a place of empowerment or disempowerment. And I really encourage you to see yourself and how worthy you are, Aries rising. Okay. All right, Pisces rising. This is higher education, learning, beliefs, adventure, truth, philosophy, all these really wonderful, big abstract sort of things, honestly. So you could be deciding to learn something new or teach something. Maybe some beliefs have been changing about what you're worth as well. Uranus is in your third house of the way you think, the way you make decisions, the way you speak your truth. Taurus is there, so it's opening up that throat chakra. And so I think for you, you may be deciding, I can go after this now. I believe in this. And it really is about your inner truth, I think, and maybe some philosophy change, right? If you have to make decisions and speak your truth, you really need to know what that truth is, right? So it's about getting really clear on what you believe, I think. Aquarius rising. This is ambition, authority, career, public image. It's in your 10th house, okay? The 10th house is really about how you present yourself to the world in a authoritative sort of way. So that's why it is career and public image, reputation, that sort of thing. And that's where this new moon is. You're really trying to start a new phase here. Take your power back over your own public image and how you appear in your career, success, all of those words. Now, that means Uranus is in your fourth house of home, emotional security, self-worth, and that could be changing for you. I think of maybe home office renovation, making a space in your home to be that authoritative career person. All of that is what's on the plate for you for this new moon, Aquarius rising. Okay, Capricorn rising. This is about friends, networks, goals, aspirations. It's in your 11th house. It's really about the future. What do I want in the future? Now, Uranus has been in your 5th house of creativity, children, purpose, what you find enjoyable. That could all have been changing. Well, if what you find enjoyable is changing, then maybe your goals will be changing as well. And that's exactly what this new moon is for you. Your whole friend groups, you may find yourself in new friend groups, right? You may find yourself at least searching for that, whether it be online, social media, putting yourself out there more, or thinking about what you're doing in the future. Just remember to fall back on your heart and what you really enjoy, what really in the future, like if you were to think, I want $1 million. No. It's not the $1 million that you want. It's what $1 million brings you. That's what I want you to ask. What do you actually, the feeling you want in the future? What is your purpose here? That's what this new moon is about for you. Sagittarius rising. This is retreat, self-reflection, dreams, intuition. This is a pretty abstract area to have the new moon. I would say, you may not even be able to put your finger on what this new moon is about. Uranus has been in your 6th house of health, routine, everyday life, work, and something there has been changing. Maybe you've become aware of your value shifting there. Maybe it's like, oh, I want to, start taking milk thistle every day for my liver. Okay, that sounds again like a very small little thing, but all of those little bitty everyday things and the value shifts in our health and in our routines really do affect us spiritually, subconsciously. And that's where this new moon is for you. So it's about, okay, I'm going to start this new phase of really being in my intuition, paying attention to my dreams. I call this place the place of downloads and updates. And so that's what this new moon is for you. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful week. And let me see, is there anything else I want to tell you? I don't know. I definitely will be back for the next week, November 8th, for the Mars square Saturn week. And if you have any questions, always feel free to hit me up on all of my social media. And as always, I'm available for sessions. I'm thinking about rolling out the eclipse quickies again. I think people really enjoyed that. It's a little 45-minute eclipse update. But yeah, it's really nice to see you all. I really appreciate you watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the algorithms for me. And I'm trying to get those subscribers up. So share it with your friends and all of that goodness. All right. All my best wishes for you all and a very, very empowered new moon phase. Mwah.